Welcome to another episode of Exploring the Vintage NFT Space with Zero G. Today, I'm excited to have with me Rare Pepe OG artist, Finest Rares. Thanks for joining me today.
Hey, Zero G, thanks so much for having me. Pleasure to be on your show.
Yeah, looking forward to it. You've got quite the directory of OG cards, so I'm looking forward to chatting about those. But before we jump into those, let's talk about your introduction to crypto. When did you first learn about crypto, and what actually motivated you to actually jump over the ledge and actually buy into it?
So it's a great question. And I was lucky enough to get involved in crypto 2011. I started mining, and really, what it was just this enthusiasm for what it provided on an ethical level for the financial world, and for people to be able to own their own currency, to have it in their own possession, totally decentralized. It was this philosophy that just captivated me completely. I was young at the time. I was in high school. It was $2 a pop for a Bitcoin. And obviously, I told everybody about it. No one believed that it would become something. And I just carried on. I mined a lot of Bitcoin. I mined a lot of other different various coins at the time. And I've been able to start a lot of different crypto companies, all revolving around blockchain, cryptocurrency, DeFi, and then eventually NFTs. So I've been in this space for over a decade now. This really is, my passion. It's what I love. I'm an entrepreneur in the space. I'm a developer. I specialized in cryptography at NYU. So this really became my entire life, from getting obsessed with it over a decade ago now.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, congrats on actually being able to make it, full time in the space. That's something I always admired about people who were able to do that. I never was able to make that transition, but
Yeah, someday for sure.
Yeah.
Everyone says it's still the early phase. It's still early adopters these days.
That's true. But no, that's fascinating. Yeah. So you were you GPU mining at first with for Bitcoin?
GPU mining had a powerful one rig at the time, and then I started mining Litecoin.
Yeah.
I think Litecoin was a difficulty of 4, when I started mining Litecoin. So I was really bullish on that. And then there were some other coins that started popping off, things like Feathercoin come to mind. And I started to really expand the mining operation. I was selling machines, turnkey machines that people could just plug into a wall and start mining. And then I started opening up some places across the Northeast where I could continue mining, because that was what was fascinating to me at the time. And from there, it started, like I said, with financial transactions and really opening up the gateway for individuals to own this sovereignty of their wealth. And from there, the transgression, I suppose, that it took was, first it was finance. It was your bank in your pocket, your total control and sovereignty. And then I think it was around 2013 that we started playing around with data on the blockchain, at least just personally in 2013. And that was sending data on the op return. So simply sending a Bitcoin transaction, putting a little bit of data on it, and now having that data exist globally and redundantly.
Immutably.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, immutably. Yeah.
Immutably, of course. And at that time I was a co-founder with Blockchain of Things. And we were doing kind of an Internet of Things plan and working with some interesting companies to have this data stored redundantly and globally for Internet of Things devices. So that was from finance purely to data. And then in 2016, I started working on a project that eventually became known as Portion. And what we were doing at the time was we were verifying and tracking the authenticity and provenance of physical assets.
Oh, okay. I've never heard of this project.
Yes, it started really, really early in the scheme of things. We didn't call them NFTs yet. And essentially, what brought me ultimately to the point of conversation in Rare Pepes was
Yeah.
that I started to explore counterparty, because
Mhm.
counterparty was a great way to verify the authenticity of something real, of some physical objects, to
Mhm.
prove that it's a real good and that you own it. And in that rabbit hole that I went down, I stumbled across Rare Pepes. And for me, that was the first time I'd ever seen crypto art. And I was obsessed, it was like Bitcoin all over again. I got involved with the community, and I started making some Rare Pepes. And that was, I think I heard about it in 2016, and I made my first Rare Pepe in January 2017. If I remember
Yeah, I
correctly.
mean, I I came into it a lot later than you, but I had the same thing where I've kind of become Pepe obsessed myself too, you know. Um, it's easy to get addicted, but I do appreciate the fact that you also have the appreciation for um, I guess some of the greater impact and and, and application of crypto beyond number go up, which we see too much of nowadays.
Totally. It really was. It's about the tech, and just like I mentioned, like that transition that we had from finance to data to art,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
just like building on top of each other. And of
Yeah.
course, I think that the fourth aspect of that is the metaverse, because now all of those things are coming together. With DeFi
Yeah.
and the metaverse, it's just one major thing that I think is going to change the planet more than it already has.
Yeah, I mean, and before we jump, I mean, since we're just on it, I mean, we're talking about really the first with these early NFTs. This is the first ever time we have this cryptographically verifiable system of ownership ever, right? It really is a game changer that um I don't know, it's to me it's one of the most like fascinating and precious things you can have, really. I know that sounds kind of nerdy, but I think it's amazing.
I agree with you, man. It's incredible. To be able to own something digital, a decade ago, that would have been just unimaginable. And to a lot of people, even today, like it doesn't make sense. But I know, like, to guys like you and me, and probably everybody listening to this right now, it makes a lot of sense.
I
You
mean,
know,
especially coming from, people who have been exposed to things like, like the previous generation of corporate digital property where it's like skins for games where you never really own it. It just exists within the database of you know, some company. And it's just such a huge paradigm shift. Like you said, it's the same concept of self-sovereignty for ownership that you had with Bitcoin for finance itself.
totally. And it's just slowly has built on top of each other
Yeah.
over the last decade.
Yeah. So well, so that's a fascinating background. I'll have to chat with you some more offline about that sometime. But so how did you? So you've got quite the library of cards that you created when you started working on this. How did you? What was your background in like in art or kind of like internet art? How did you? What was your background there?
So the reason why I got interested in it is because I was looking and researching a way to verify physical goods, physical art.
Mhm.
Um, that was an interest. The other aspect that does play a big role is my mother was an artist, so I grew up with my mom having a studio and seeing things that she's creating, and going to her openings and going to New York and visiting the museums, and really being involved in that sort of culture since I was really young.
Mhm.
And I guess it didn't mentally play a big role until Rare Pepes came along. Because then, like, the thought that crossed my mind after I had made a few pieces, and I remember saying this, and it was a kind of joke to a buddy of mine, because I said to him, we're artists. We're literally the definition of a professional artist, because we're making Rare Pepes. There are collectors out there who are buying them. even though it was only a few bucks at the time in early 2017, but it was just, it was kind of funny at the time, but it was also very real in a lot of senses, because we believed that something crazy was going to happen. And that was the whole sort of meme magic of Rare Pepe that was keeping the community alive in some sense.
Yeah, I mean, and it's the first, I mean, to your point too, it's not just the quality of the art, it's also the fact that you're, for the first time, it's also like, again, capturing a snapshot of internet culture at the same time too, and more specifically, like more focused on crypto culture too, which makes it even more fascinating.
Yeah, because what made a piece good at the time wasn't if it was like beautiful or perfectly done in like a textbook art sense. It was if we called them dank. Like if a piece was dank, that was good. And if a piece was dank, that meant that it met these qualifiers of and completed this circuit mentally for us. And a dank piece incorporates whatever internet culture is popular at the time with a Rare Pepe. So when you put two things together, and it's just the first time you've seen these two things together, come together and be born, that's a dank piece. And that, at the time, that was what we thought was good.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's really amazing. You know, I still think Rare Pepes is one of the most fascinating collections in the entire NFT space. The breadth of the art and artists, and the, you know, the range of art. I mean, like I said, the moments that is captured, you know, it's fascinating.
It was amazing. Like it really is a perfect example of an incredible decentralized community. It happened organically. It happened by accident. I don't think they did any like marketing or like crazy like ad like budgets or whatever you know might have occurred if it was like done in this day. But it was organic. It was real. You know, these artists were from around the world, and the community just took off. You know, when I got involved, I think the community was just a couple hundred people in the Telegram. And it's just a fun place to be. And there was something happening there. There was some seed that was sprouting, and it was a visceral feeling. And it kept everybody there. And it's my firm belief that that seed of people in that Rare Pepe Telegram in, you know, early 2017, if that had never transpired, I'd go out as far to say, I don't think an NFT would be an NFT. I don't think we'd have that same like worldwide phenomenon that we've seen in the last year and a half if Rare Pepes didn't exist exactly the way that they did.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that, because one of the things that really sets it apart is, um, until Rare Pepes, and even after it, I can't recall any, at least for quite a while, any other decentralized community projects like this, where one of the things that I think is important, is that the artists had complete sovereignty and freedom with their own art that they like got submitted to the directory too. There was no, other than the basically the token, you know, Pepe cash burn, there was no real like fee. There's like no one was, again, there's like we have artists that hoarded them all and never sold a single one. We have some that sold all of them, but just having the freedom over their own assets, their own art was also part of that too, I think.
Totally. The only sort of gateway that there was that should be mentioned are the scientists. They're great, you know, they're easygoing. I think I think of all the things I submitted, there was only one thing that Mike was like, no, we can't do that one, you know?
Yeah.
So
Well,
they were easy going. But I wanted to quickly note, you know, because
yeah.
I said that I don't think that NFTs would be NFTs today.
Yeah.
Because one thing really led to another. Like I remember, you know, the Red Pepper guys knew the guys who created CryptoPunks. I remember meeting with them like when they were creating it, because those ideas potentially
Yeah.
in some way, shape, or form were manifested because of what had happened in Rare Pepe. We knew them, they knew us. And of course, they're geniuses on their own accord. Whatever they did,
Mhm.
they were gonna do well. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
they're geniuses. And they deserve so much respect for that. But Rare Pepe is really, in my opinion, really fueled that fire
Oh
to
yeah, for sure. For
of
sure.
what came to come. You
Yeah.
know?
And yeah, it's an exciting project. Well, let's go ahead and jump into your cards. So I see that the first one that you submitted was the Pepe Wicked.
Mhm.
Do you want to tell me about that?
Yeah. It goes back to that concept of dankness. Really, to make a good card, you had to combine two things together that probably have never seen the light of day together. It's a rare Pepe
Mhm.
if it had never been done before. That's very important for me at the time. It could, like, nowhere on the internet, even before like people were putting rare Pepes on the blockchain, that thing never could have been seen together, because that's what makes it rare, obviously.
Yeah.
So Pepe Wicked really was just my very first attempt of clashing together these two ridiculously different concepts into one. It was as simple as that. And, it was funny. Like, to me, it was funny, to put the Pepe face on the flying monkeys or whatever those things are,
Yeah.
um, it was so long ago. I'd have to look at the piece. That was almost 6 years ago that I made
Yeah,
that.
it's a fun card. There was one detail I wanted to ask you about is you have I guess that orb at the bottom that has the name of the card, Pepe Wicked, and then it flashes real briefly to, I think, misprint. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
No
what?
one ever really saw what was happening there. And I realized I didn't play that right. There was,
Uh-huh.
so at the time, it was a joke to have a piece that was a little fucked up on purpose, or not, whatever, but it was a misprint. And obviously the joke is that you can't misprint something digital, and that's why it's funny,
Mhm.
right? Because you
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
million tries to get it right. Um, the misprints, at that exact moment that the globe flashes misprint, there's one of those monkeys with the Pepe,
Oh, I
um,
see it.
catching a fly with its tongue,
I see that. Yeah. Yeah.
and that was the misprint.
Okay, cool.
It was too fast for anyone to ever consciously perceive it. But thank you for bringing that up, because it's been so long since I thought about it, and it's nice to finally get some recognition on that.
Well, yeah, I'm glad I asked. So that was your first card, and that was a pretty high issuance. So with your first card, you know, I'm assuming that you got right away. Were you like trading and selling in order to kind of build up other cards for your collection?
No, it wasn't
Yeah.
about making money. It really wasn't. It was, I gave so many away for
Mhm.
free, friends, family, 100 here, 100 there of the cards. I would be trading with some other friends who were making rare Pepes. I was telling some of my friends, like, hey, like, you guys should start making rare Pepes. Like, this is like something interesting is happening. And they'd make some, and then I trade with them. Um, I don't remember what I sold them at. I have no idea
Yeah.
that I was selling them at. It couldn't have been more than a few bucks for like 100 at the time. There was no market. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there was a market, but it wasn't going to
Wasn't
pay.
real money.
Yeah, it was for fun.
Yeah, cool. And your next card, which is the Pepe Meetup BK. You want to tell me about that one?
Was that my next card? I actually didn't realize that. That's fascinating. So
Yeah,
what's so
so
what's,
it's it that along with you actually have, what is it? Uh, you have four cards that are in season 11. So this is just a card number. You may have submitted it in a different order.
got it? Some group of, and I made this made the first Rare Pepe meetup, Pepe Cash meetup, and the only way to get this card was to
Mhm.
come, and we'd give it for free if you came. I don't know what it says on the card, but it was at the Roebling Tea House, which no longer exists in Brooklyn.
Oh, cool.
And if you came and, you know, a few people would show up, you know, every time we had it, we'd give them a free card. It was fun.
That's cool. Yeah, definitely. And the other, well, the next card in series in terms of card number would be the Pepe bill, which I remember that from the Schoolhouse, kind of riffing on the Schoolhouse Rock thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I took a lot of other various strange things and put them together in that piece.
Yeah, I didn't recognize the like what else is I see a mirror in the background, but so I'm not really sure what else you guys were trying to achieve on that one. The
It
other
was,
references are.
yeah, it was just, I was no sole creator of
Mhm,
that card. And it was just, I was learning how to use Photoshop too. So I
mhm,
needed to do things, and like I was taking tutorials because I had little Photoshop experience. Like I knew how to like fumble my way around it, but I was taking tutorials and really learning. And like that mirror that you see on the left and like
mhm,
the daylights. So those are all different clippings from different like GIFs and stuff. So I was
mhm,
putting them together and then figuring out how to like, you know, mask the mirror perfectly to get a reflection from what's happening outside with this different GIF. So
mhm,
it was mostly to learn
mhm.
that piece.
That's cool. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and your next card is Pepe Pringles, which I think is kind of a fun card for, cheap one that people can get into easily.
Yeah, Pepe Pringles, it's my highest issuance. It's 100,000 is another one. It was for fun, and like, you know, the concept of pairing Pepe with a brand that
Mhm.
started taking off at a certain point. Like that's dank. Like to see Pepe
Yeah.
on a brand, it's
Mhm.
funny, man. Like that's really all I was going for. That slogan, I gotta have. I should put my cards like on a different screen next to me. So, it won't. What is the slogan?
Once you pop, you can't stop.
Once you pop, you can't stop. I had read that somewhere. I don't know if that's like an official thing or a Pringles thing. It was just funny. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing more. And I like, you know, I took the Pringles can and very meticulously put Pepe's face on it, very meticulously wrote Pepe Pringles, then found some other gifs with the lily pads and stuff in the background. And it came together.
I
Um,
I think you did a really good job like pepifying, having that kind of pepified version of that corporate logo that they have.
Thank you, man. If my mind's correct, it was in this car when I realized there was a gap missing in Rare Pepes that created the illusion of infinite playing. Okay. And it's like a lot of cards would just be, let's just like for the sake of conversation, say like a 10-second loop. And at
Mhm.
the end of it, it would be a very jagged kind of
Yeah.
transition back to the first frame.
Yeah.
And
Reset, hard reset. Uh-huh.
everyone was doing, thank you, hard reset. Everyone was doing hard resets. And I was thinking, I'm going to find my brand making these cards look like they exist infinitely, forever. And that's when I
Yeah.
started doing things that always had the semblance of that infinite loop. And it was always shocking to me that other people weren't really experimenting with that on the same level at the time.
Yeah, that's a really good transition because one of the like your next card is one that I think is really captivating for that reason, which is Pepe Globe. It's I mean, yeah, it really draws you in.
Yeah. Yeah, that one was super popular. That's when I think I figured out there was something crazy going on. And that was a really fun one to make.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a fractal in the sense that like you said, you got it down to where it's a smooth transition throughout the entire cycle.
Yeah, it's like I always thought of it as like a 20-sided dice, you know, it's just like
Mhm,
you just fall into it forever.
mhm. Yeah, super cool. Um, and your next card is Pepe Newton, which I'm assuming the issuance is in reference to, is that his year of
It's the
birth or
year.
year of death?
I think that might be the year that he discovered
Okay,
gravity.
okay,
I'm gonna open it up just to see. I'm going to my site, by the way, which has on my cards. It's finestares.com.
okay.
They're all laid out here. It's a different order, but I just want to pull it out. So 1687. 1687. Let's see exactly what that is. Um, yeah, that was when he published um, the laws of motion,
Okay,
so gravity.
awesome. Yeah, as a science nerd, that was definitely one I picked up a long time ago. So good
Oh,
times.
cool. Thanks for that.
Yeah, and your next card is Pepe Drake, which you also got into a pretty good loop there with I see there's some like I recognize the Nakamoto and Pepe Cash, and there's one other card that's in there too.
It's the meetup one. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This
Yeah.
this this is three different things. It's like Pepe, obviously. Um, it's also Pokemon card,
Oh, okay.
right? Those are pieces of a Pokemon card all around it.
Oh, okay. I never
Um,
messed with Pokemon, so I didn't recognize that off the.
cool.
Yeah, that
And
makes
and
sense.
the third thing is this was a super popular Drake meme. I'm sure you've seen it a million
Yeah,
times. And this was the culmination of three different concepts.
that's cool. Yeah, so that's why it has stage two Pepe. That's a Pokemon thing for like the trading cards for those. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and your next one is one of the is I think it's one of the more striking of what's considered a fine art Pepe, which is the Salvador Pepe. That's really a banger.
That's my famous piece, man. That's the one that really took off. This was the first Pepe that ever got into a modern art museum as
Oh
well.
wow.
Um, yeah, that was about a year ago now. It's also been on ArtNet and an auction twice. So this one, like, really, by far, like this is my staple piece for sure.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thanks. And it's the concept is simple. It's Salvador Dali's persistence of memory. And of course, I simply replaced the melting clocks, which is known around the world. It's in everybody's mind. It has that mimetic-like magic. So I replaced the melting clocks with the melting Pepe, and the background with a galaxy that's looping infinitely.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, you captured that same effect of the infinite loop on that, which is super cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so yeah, that's one that always is really striking whenever I see it. And your next one, Keck Pepe, is also something that have always found captivating too.
Yeah, Kek Pepe is it's a montage. On the right hand side there, I have some of the Egyptian hieroglyphs.
Mhm.
Egyptian hieroglyphs being super important to kind of the lore of Pepe and Kek. Descended from Kek, this Egyptian sort of lord-like figure. It's part of the meme. Very
Yeah.
crucial to the Pepe lore. I'm sure you know all about it. I'm sure the audience does too. So those are Egyptian symbols that spell out Kek and Pepe. And then we have this Pepe character with this glowing aura behind him, with a tree being planted out of his head and a galaxy in the background. So really, it's a holistic perspective, perceiving Pepe as Kek in this universe as this like godly, like omniscient character.
Yeah, it's really striking with the loop you got going too, with the equilateral triangles, I'm assuming are reference to the pyramids. So
Reference to the pyramid, and also coming out of the heart chakra was what I was thinking.
okay.
And then of course it's going up,
Mhm.
symbolizing Kundalini. And then at the final one, when it's at the top, it puts the pharaoh sort of accolades on top of Pepe the character.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool.
There's probably a lot more symbology and meaning in that piece than a lot of my other ones.
Mhm. Yeah, it's also a really striking piece too.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Your next one is pretty fun, is the Tubby's Tubby's card.
So this is part of my baby series.
Mhm.
So I did 2 cards in the baby series. This was card 1, and found some funny clips actually from Teletubbies and put it together in a montage and put this like kind of like wax like seal in the upper right and stamped that it was part of the baby series.
Oh yeah, I never noticed that. Okay, yeah, I get you. So
Cool.
that's cool.
Cool.
Yeah. And I'd have to say probably I would imagine probably your second most popular card would be the Pepe loop, right?
Pepe Loop was up there, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Um, yeah, what was that based off of? Is there an artwork that was in reference to?
No, it's a montage of all these different clips. So
Mhm.
to make these pieces, I would go on Jiffy and go on different GIF like websites and stuff. And it
Mhm.
was like, in a way, it was just like this like mixed sort of like GIF media.
Yeah.
Really, like it
Mhm.
just like it was these are collages, right? They're all collages, which is just like, in my opinion, it was like the internet's expression of being able to do a collage. So I can't tell you exactly where all of the constituents came from, but they were bits and pieces of other stuff that was existing on the internet.
Which is actually like really the most authentic form of internet art, is taking, that's how internet art was made, and how meaning was done is cutting and pasting and photoshopping existing stuff, you know.
Totally. And then when people recognize different parts of it, they feel like, oh, I've seen this somewhere before.
Mhm.
So it adds to that whole like mimetic like thing that you're trying to like transfer to a person through a rare
Yeah, I
pep.
mean, yeah, I mean, and to your point with the mimetics, there's uh, there's like a resonance that builds the more something is referenced throughout, whether it's online or in normal meet space. There's a resonance that builds, that is part of that, the mimetic power,
Totally agree. Something builds it, that information exists somewhere,
Mhm.
and it's magic happens. Really, truly does. That's why I
That's
think it's like the CIA or something that has like a memetics department.
Oh, no way.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. So I've suspected that some of the online groups were experiments in social control. Like maybe some of those anonymous offshoots, where basically seeing what they could get a bunch of people on the internet to do, without any direct manipulation. Just something I always kind of pondered.
Yeah, I wonder about that. I don't know anything about it, but I do wonder about it too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I don't have anything to back that up. It's just something I've always um I don't know, just something I've always kind of wondered. But yeah, so that wouldn't be super surprising. Um and your next card, which is that second card in that in the baby series, is Pepe Pampers, which is, I think, is really a really good one.
That one had me cracking up. Yeah, for a limited time only. Like, it's just it's simple. It's based on the brand. It's like Pepe Pringles. I think people really liked it, and it was fun to do a series because people knew that like you got to get card 1 and you have to get card 2 to complete the baby series.
Mhm. Yeah,
So I
definitely.
got a kick out of that.
Yeah, and I love the colors you did for it too, with the way you did the background too. That it really came off well.
Thanks. It was one of my few static pieces that didn't move.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
actually, as I'm looking through your directory, you only have a couple, a handful that are not animated. So yeah, I
yeah, yeah.
yeah, your next one is Pepe Trash. Do you want to talk about that one?
Pepe trash. This piece kind of became a little bit of a phenomenon. Um, People, and listen, don't quote me on this or anything, but some people say that this was the beginning of the trash art movement. I've seen people say that online on Twitter and reference this piece as the first of the trash art movement.
Huh.
Um, I definitely wasn't trying to do anything like that. The whole point of it was that it was just like it was the opposing concept that, yo, this piece is garbage, but it was the paradox of it being garbage and there being collectors that want to acquire it anyway, because
Yeah,
something could be, it's just, and like, artists have done this for hundreds of years probably. It's not really so much trying to see what you can get away with. It's not that at all. It's saying, listen, this is the opposite of what every other artist is trying to create right now. This is trash. This is so different than everything else. And because of that, it's going to have a value because it's
because
so
it's self-consciously trash too.
exactly. You got it. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah,
interesting.
look, I don't know how much you've looked up the trash art movement, but it's huge these
I
days.
Yeah, I was talking to Easy B about that, and he was kind of filling me in. I mean, yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Really taken off.
yeah, that would actually be super cool if that would be the first piece that kind of spawned that.
Some people say it was, some people say it wasn't, but it's like anything. It's
Yeah,
controversial,
yeah,
you know? And that's good. That's good for
yeah,
everybody. And that's good for the trash art movement too, because people are talking about it.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I love how they turned the toter bins into a meme in that trash art movement. It's just,
Yeah, it's funny.
yeah,
It's good. They're
yeah.
doing a good job.
Yeah, and similar to Pepe's, they're keeping it lighthearted with keeping it fun.
Yeah, that's important. Fun and like an organic community. It's so essential for
Yeah,
any Web3, DeFi, NFT, crypto art project. It's just gotta be real. You can't like throw a bunch of like marketing dollars behind it. That never works. From
yeah.
experience, that just doesn't work. It just has to be real and organic.
No, interesting. Well, your next card is Smug Pepe. And I see it has a little Pepe Pringles there in the basket too.
He's lunching on it. Yeah, that's his lunch. This piece, I've always thought of this as my second best known piece.
Mhm.
Because I've seen other like artists, I've seen them put it in like their piece in like the background on a museum like setting. So I've seen artists take this piece and put it in theirs, which I kind of thought was fascinating. This was just supposed to be like a more realistic representation of Pepe.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
it's the only basic like realistic version of Pepe in your OG cards.
Totally. I was trying to change it up. The cartoon of Pepe is great. It's recognizable. But to have one piece, I figured that was like actually showed Pepe what he'd look like in the third dimension. Thought
Mhm.
that was cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I really love the colors of the background for the sky that the way that turned out too. It's really appealing.
Thanks. Thanks. I couldn't get it to loop. I remember it specifically. It would I didn't you can't loop it because it was those are real videos. So a
Yeah,
loop wouldn't work. So I just pulsated it back and forth like a kind of like a heart beating.
yeah. So I mean, it turned out really well. And I didn't know that it had been referenced a lot in other pieces. Um, but one of the ones that I know it's simple, but I always thought was really striking too is the Pepe Kek. That's a fun one.
Pepe Kek. Yeah, this no one really ever understood this piece. It was weird. It was esoteric. Pepe has a horse. Um, I think that's Sanskrit in the upper right hand. I don't even remember what it means, but it's probably something like Pepe written in Sanskrit. I don't know what it means now. That that was 5 years ago that I made that piece. But what I do know is that that's the flower of life,
Yeah,
and rareness scores alpha. Being alpha was
yeah,
a big thing as part of the meme.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, also the colors too on the background, I thought make it pop too. So it's an appealing card from that perspective too. And just the pepified horse as well is even if you don't understand what's going on, it definitely captures your attention.
And the card template is from it's classic.
Yeah.
It's from like the first three with that
Mhm.
with that yellow and with that light blue.
Mhm.
I don't know, maybe it was Mike, maybe it was Theo. I don't know who did that first. Probably Mike. I don't know, don't quote me on that. But I know that they just did that to like to crop out probably whatever else was there on the piece that they had just made.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So that became a theme, like that safety greenish color, that light blue.
Mhm.
That's a thing
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. And your next one is dummies, which back then that like in online meme culture that like that was a meme using that photoshopping that book.
Yeah. Yeah, I was surprised too that I was able to get um dummies as the right. I have dummies, the XCP token. I
Yeah.
thought that was pretty cool to be able to get that. And yeah, this one was a classic.
Yeah.
No one had done it. It's simple. There's some funny text in there, like what you're going to learn to identify and appraise the dankest rares in this moving industry. Like apply meme economy principles to your infrastructure environment. Like it's just all business jargon. And funny thing is, it was totally a joke, but it wasn't it wasn't a booming industry back then. So it's funny to see that written in there now.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
And to your point too, one thing I know there's been a ton of names that have been taken, but like luckily there haven't been a ton of degens recently that have squatted everything like they have for all these other naming services. So you can still get some decent token names for your art, which I'm grateful for. So
On
hopefully,
XCP.
yeah.
Yeah, and now you can get like a dot XCP, which is cool. Like
Yeah,
the
that's
people have like dot ETH. I love that people are starting to do that.
yeah, yeah, me too. I went ahead and set that up for myself too, a .xcp. So
Oh, nice. It might be good to have. It's good to have a dot ETH. Maybe Counterparty will have it stay in the sun. You never know.
well, I mean, having like briefly interacted with asset creation and whatnot, um, there's a real beauty for the simplicity and the ease of use for even a newcomer being able to create and manage assets on Counterparty. It's super cool.
Hmm. It is. It's good, man. It's nice because it's on Bitcoin too.
Yeah, for sure. And now we have tools like the Easy Asset Art that really simplify the entire process, for hosting the images and whatnot. So it's really cool.
Definitely. Totally agree.
Yeah, and I almost forgot, but one of your other like I think super cool ones is the Pepe, for people that remember MySpace.
This card's on a long loop.
Oh,
Um,
is it?
very long loop. If you look at those advertisements on the right hand column there, it's I'm advertising at like Facebook would have an advertisement on the right side. I mean, MySpace would have an advertisement. I'm advertising on my other pieces there,
Oh, I
and
see.
I think some pieces of some friends as well.
Mhm.
not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah, I see your cards and I see there's also Futures Pepe in there,
Hmm.
which I think is an amazing piece personally.
It's classic
Yeah,
because that day is coming to pass.
it is. Yeah.
And that's another thing about the whole joke and the whole meme magic and how the prophecy is being fulfilled, which is what's making Rare Pepes more and more popular.
Yeah, it's really wild how again from back then when these were trading for a couple bucks, for it to actually play out. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that caption plays out for Pepe Futures.
I hope it does. It's on the way.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's on the
Yeah,
way. I think it'll happen. Don't quote me
it's
on that, but I hope it happens.
it's one of my favorite cards. I was able to get one of them, and it's one of the ones I never intend to sell. I I super I really love it.
I love it too. And I think if I'm not mistaken, in that card on the wall, in that card is the
Yeah,
new Pepe.
yeah, it is. Yeah, there's Pepe Newton, and there's also like Neon Frogs, and there's a couple others. But yeah, your Pepe Newton is referenced in there, which is really cool.
It's when artists started doing that, that was just like the meme becoming really like meta, really
Mhm.
building on top of itself.
Yeah, the like in terms of the skill and the dankness, Pepe Futures is just, I don't know, it's an amazing piece. So um
I agree.
yeah. So your next piece is Rare Groiper. So I know that there for a while there were some Groipers that were being tossed into the directory. So
Yeah. Yeah, we at least I thought Groiper was going to be the next thing. I was able to get the rare Groiper token,
yeah.
which was special to me.
Mhm.
And the concept really here with this card, Groiper's this very esoteric figure. He was just popping onto the scene. He would always have this tagline about staying cozy. He's kind of this like overweight, like, weird uncle of Pepe. And choose timeline, like the esoteric, like spiritual concept of like choosing your path, choosing your timeline, switching between timelines.
Mhm.
That was the vibe that I was trying to create with this sort of like
Oh, I see.
special edition holographic card.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense with the clouds, and then that more of that almost like shimmery background, but at the edges. That makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah, and that shimmery background, man, that took forever to create. I
Did
remember
it?
trying to make it like look like, you're moving
Mhm.
it back and forth. I remember like working on that for hours and hours and hours just to create that.
Yeah, and I see your little tag at the bottom too. You even signed it Finest Rares too. That's cool.
Yeah. I wish I signed it on all my pieces, but I hit it on a lot of them, fortunately.
Mhm.
Um, I think that was the last piece I had made, right?
Yeah, that's the last of your accepted OG rares. And you said you had one that you submitted that was not accepted too, right?
Yeah, it was well, there were two other pieces that I did. Um, I didn't submit them as finest rares, but there are finest rares out there. Um, Pepe Art. I did Pepe Art.
Did you do that as a commission, or are they just not attributed to you yet on Pepe.wtf?
They're not attributed to me yet because I did it from a different
Oh, I see.
address.
I see.
And then I also did random Pepe.
Okay.
So those are two, like I think I don't know if I'm looking at them on Pepe.wtf. The artist is just this random address, so they don't know quite
Yeah,
yet.
I'll have that updated, so it'll be attributed back to you. Yeah,
Cool,
random Pepe is definitely a trippy loop there.
right? Yeah, the whole concept just, it's like random parallel universes. What could Pepe look like? Just random.
Mhm. Yeah, that's cool. And let me pull up. Oh yeah, the Pepe art is a fun one too. Is that what kind of style are you trying to mimic there for the Pepe art?
Oh, just like a modern style, like
Mhm.
a modern art sort of style that you'd see
Yeah,
in like a museum. And then of course with the contrast of like this frame from like the
yeah,
16 or 1700s, like kind of like
mhm,
UK, like Gaudi looking frame over
yeah,
this like modern Pepe. Not modern Pepe, but
yeah,
modern
mhm.
looking Pepe.
Yeah, super cool. Um, and you also I know you also are a fan of fake rares, so I know you submitted one recently that just got accepted. Do you want to talk about Pepeverse?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of what Skrill is doing with fake rares. I love it. I think they're doing a great job. Um, Annie too, like they're wonderful. They're really very helpful. Um, I was able to create this piece with them, I guess month and a half ago. Pepe verse, Pepe in the metaverse. Let me pull it up. I wanna
Yeah,
talk
sure.
about it like looking at it. Pepe verse, fake rares. Here it is. So I think this piece came out okay. Um, Again, we have the aura around Pepe. That's kind of like reminds me of like the aura around Kek Pepe. Because I
Yeah.
love working with spiritual concepts. But in this scenario, we have Pepe. He's got his VR headset on. He's at a nightclub in virtual reality.
Mhm.
Okay, he's there. He's got his controls. Like he's dancing. But there's this concept at the same time that he's somewhere else. He's not in modern mainstream current reality. And there's this extraterrestrial group who's sucking out these constituents of his mind because he's not present. Okay,
Mhm.
he's losing his presence because he's so tapped into the metaverse. So it's a play on the metaverse, and it's a
Mhm.
message that the metaverse might not be a positive thing for society to have.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting.
And then the background is it's just, again, it's the constituents of different like get gifs and like clips and frames and stuff I found online, and I just tried to create as unique of a contrast between this thing that looks like it's a night sky with clouds, and then this water with these rainbows and like stuff reflecting off his aura.
I mean, to the message of your Pepe, um, I that's one of the reasons I think an open platform for an open metaverse standard or platform is really crucial for this to be safe going forward, because the ability to have um like nowadays there's it's very possible for sophisticated groups, governments or whatnot, to basically run, like, analyze it and generate content to elicit whatever response they want and deliver that in a metaverse format, and very subtly manipulate people without them even understanding, is one of the things that I think would very easily be, like you said, kind of like one of the dark timelines of where that could go.
Yeah, and it's up to us. It's up to putting this sort of
Mhm.
message out there, putting it into the culture, getting it into mainstream consciousness. This was my attempt to get it there through a meme. you
Mhm.
know so if people see this in a couple years, when it's the 11th hour now, but when it's when
Mhm.
it's when it's the hour, hopefully that people have a lot of things to look back on, that the decentralized community put in an effort to warn us and thwart off that potential timeline.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it's a good message because again, it's worth putting out there, again, because I think it's whatever form it takes. I think it's, I from the first time I used an Oculus Rift a few years ago, I as janky as it was, I saw the potential. I know it's going to be huge in some format. So I, there's definitely a future there. We just want to make sure that, again, it's an open system and not like, a walled garden. So, it's susceptible to corporate control or whatever. So
Yeah, we don't want to enter a world where I think I saw it was like Edward Snowden who tweeted this a week ago, where you blink and the ads pause in
oh
the meta.
God.
You know, that says it all right there.
And to take it even another step further, to have the data tracking and everything to synchronize the ads to where even after you take off the headset and you walk out into like the rest of your house or the rest of the world, to have the ads just switch the format and still follow, I mean, super messed up.
It could get fucked up for sure. So I'm optimistic. I'm
Yeah.
optimistic that won't happen.
Yeah. Well, I know you're kind of on a tight timeline. Is there anything like, so we've covered your introduction, your a little bit of just touched on your background in crypto, which it sounds like there's a lot more to delve into some another time. But we've talked about all of your cards. Is there anything else that you'd like to discuss in terms of maybe like where you see like NFTs and digital ownership going forward, or any trends that you're paying attention to?
Yeah, and I guess it's we just spoke about the metaverse. I think the metaverse is the next thing. And I think that, and I hope that there's going to be this open source alternative. I love Decentraland. I have some land in Decentraland, and I build some amazing activations for brands, for artists, for anyone who wants something in the metaverse. We're entering an era where everything that's led up to this is culminating right now in the metaverse, and that means finance, decentralized finance. That means data. That means everything on the blockchain coming together to create a real digital world where people know what they own, where NFTs are what you own, for being able to have an NFT and have that be cross composable into another metaverse or another game or play to earn sort of thing in the metaverse. It's all coming together for this digital world. And I think that's the major thing that blockchain will give us. I think that is whatever they call it, that's like the killer app, or whatever people call like the main thing that blockchain is going to be utilized for. I think it's the metaverse, and it's just my greatest hope that it is decentralized, people keep and maintain their sovereignty, and we continue to build this together, because this is the revolution, and people being able to control this and control themselves and work collaboratively in Web3 like this. It's going to be exciting.
I think we have the first indications that, at least for right now, the crypto culture is winning, in the sense that we've seen Reddit and I think Instagram have both allowed Polygon-based NFTs, so that we've essentially forced them to adopt open crypto instead of their own BS, like walled garden Apple/Sony style of I don't know, garbage stuff that they really would want to pull off.
I agree. It's Facebook, for whatever reason, they squashed their centralized blockchain. Like, it's working now. We need to make sure that we don't have centralized dollars from governments.
Yeah.
That's really important. That's the next big thing now. And I think that the precedent of Polygon being utilized on Instagram, Facebook, Meta, Reddit, I think that's huge. And I think we're going the right direction, because that keeps the power with the people and lets us keep the data individually and lets us keep the keys, right? It's your keys and it's your coins.
And the other thing I think is helping us too, is that the longer we go on, we're building up more and more capital in both mimetic potential and also in like, I don't know, internet, like crypto value of the existing historic NFTs and even some of the modern NFTs, to where you know, we're basically creating that digital divide that they can't replicate that value. You know, they're going to be forced to adopt open standards that allow the most significant assets on there.
I agree. They got to work with us. They really do. The people have spoken. You know, they've laughed, they've fighted, and now whatever that expression is, they're working with us.
Yeah, and I guess I'd just say too that like the other thing I'm concerned about is CBDCs going forward. I think that's the other big fight, and my concern is that essentially we could be looking at a, you know, a situation where even central bankers are willing to purposely tank national currencies in order to as a way to segue and force introduce CBDCs as a replacement. And I also worry that part of that is like the carrot that they will use in order to get adoption would be the like UBI, right, for people that are desperate and actually need it, right? So I don't know, that I think that's one of the biggest challenges in the next 10 to 20 years is again like raising that awareness and hopefully keeping that from becoming a reality.
Yeah, I agree. We got to make sure it's Bitcoin, you know. Bitcoin is the world reserve in 50 years. That's my hope. It really is. And at this point, nothing's impossible, man. We've seen the craziest stuff happen over the last decade. So nothing's improbable either.
I mean, that's I mean, if you just play it out logically, the end game for Bitcoin and the current trajectory we're on is that central banks would be forced to adopt Bitcoin as their primary reserve asset instead of gold. You know,
Makes sense. You
yeah,
know, just it's digitally scarce, it'll solve the inflation issue. It makes a lot of sense, but it's a long road to get there,
yeah.
unfortunately.
The other reason too that I don't see many people talk about is the fact that you know what, like not just Western governments, but all governments have been caught playing games and shenanigans with their holdings of gold. You know, whether it's directly intervening in the markets, or there's all sorts of games that they've been caught in that are not really at the benefit of their citizens, right? So one of the chief benefits for the citizens is you know, and just market participants is, again, with Bitcoin, you know, it's a public address and you can ensure that it still is there, right? Instead of them just saying that they have X tons of gold, right?
Totally. It's trustless.
Yeah, exactly. It's the future, right?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Well, yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on? What we're
No, I think I'm good. I appreciate you having me on here today. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. It's been a long time since I went down that road of what happened with Rare Pepe. So it's really cool to go through the pieces with you. Um, Very grateful to have been involved with the whole scene. It's still today shocking that what transpired has. Never in my wildest imaginations could all the things we dreamed about have actually come true. Because it started as a joke, and here we are today, and it's very real. And these pieces that all these amazing artists have created have true value. And I'm going to continue creating. I'm going to be making some more fake rares.
Oh, awesome. Well, we'll definitely be on the lookout to see what else you're cooking up. So thanks
Cool.
again for joining me today. This has been a really fun conversation.
Cool. Likewise, Zero G. Thank you.